Oh Darling began taking shape during the Beatles' troubled Get Back rehearsals in January 1969, months before the group properly recorded it for Abbey Road. On January 27th, while the band and Billy Preston were working through an early version at Apple, John was told that Yoko's divorce case had gone through. Needless to say, John was through the roof with excitement, and this made the musicians briefly turn Paul's desperate love song into an improvised joke about finally being free. And that loose performance was later preserved on Anthology 3. It was a strange moment, because it was a fictional plea against abandonment that suddenly became the soundtrack to a real relationship clearing one of its last legal obstacles. And despite years of fan theories, there's no reliable evidence that Paul wrote Oh Darling about Linda, Jane Asher, John Lennon, or any specific breakup. The surviving comments from the Beatles focus on the music rather than a real-life subject. George described it as a deliberate return to the chord style of the mid-1950s and early 1960s, while its doo-wop harmonies and rolling rhythm drew heavily from the old R&B and rock and roll records the Beatles had loved as teenagers. Even its working title, Oh Darling, I'll Never Do You No Harm, sounds like something pulled from a dusty old jukebox. The safest reading is that McCartney invented the heartbreak, but built it from musical memories that were very real. On April 20th, the Beatles finally recorded the basic track at EMI Studios, completing 26 takes before choosing the last one. The lineup was slightly unusual. McCartney played piano, Lennon played guitar, and Harrison played bass. Unsurprisingly, Ringo played the drums, but Billy Preston added organ to some attempts. 6 days later, McCartney recorded his first proper lead vocal, but doing so erased Preston's organ from the chosen take. That forgotten organ part can still be heard on the earlier Take 4, which was released decades later with the 50th anniversary edition of Abbey Road. So that means that beneath one of McCartney's most famous vocal lines lies an abandoned version in which the Beatles briefly sounded more like the loose and keyboard-driven band that was heard during the Get Back sessions. McCartney wasn't satisfied with that April vocal though. He wanted his voice to sound exhausted and damaged, as though he had been singing the song on stage night after night. But he believed his natural voice sounded too clean, so instead of repeatedly attacking it in one session, he would come to the studio early and generally allow himself just one serious attempt before stopping for the entire day. He tried again on July 17th, then the 18th, the 22nd, and the 23rd, with the final performance coming from the last one of those sessions. It was a remarkably controlled way to create the sound of someone losing control. McCartney patiently spent several mornings manufacturing the hoarse desperation that the song seems to release in a single burst. The recording was completed on August 11th, when Paul, John, and George added the old-fashioned three-part backing harmonies. And those harmonies were also John's final recorded performance for a Beatles song. And years later, John admitted that he had wanted the lead vocal for himself, because he believed that the rough R&B style suited his voice better, and that he could have improved upon McCartney's performance. For some reason, that final bit of competition fits the song perfectly. Oh Darling sounds like a spontaneous breakdown, but is actually settled across 7 months through discarded instruments, repeated vocals, careful studio work, and one last disagreement between two partners who could still hear exactly what the other was trying to do.